Howdy folks, good noontime. Here's a part 2 video for today over at the Scherer State Park near Osprey. So, noticeably, as I was reaching a different part of the trail, we are now essentially in the pine flatwoods, which I've done several types of videos that pertain to this type of habitat. However, though, I really want to focus upon a couple of separate native wildflower species while I'm here in the meantime. So without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? Alrighty, so as I was walking through here, I noticed that this flower seemed very prevalent in this little section. Some of you may have already seen this right here. You see this? You know, with all the clusters of the flowers? Well, for those of you who don't know, this is actually something called a camphorweed. Now, it's so named given the fact that camphor is another word that basically describes an odor. So when you actually grab the leaves and rub them together, they produce sort of an odor smell associated. It's kind of difficult to describe. You don't really know until you actually are next to the plant and you try it. And if you do try such a thing, just try to do it with one leaf. That way the integrity of the plant still remains. Because the rule is, in any state park, you're not supposed to pick any wildflowers. It's actually illegal, as a matter of fact, unless if, of course, you have some type of permit in which you have permission. But besides that, if you want to get any like native flowers in your garden beds, for instance, or even for landscaping, you'll have to go to a nursery or even a landscaping company that sells those seeds. So that's the good news, is that the camphorweed is actually a native flower in Florida. Now what's so neat about the flower in particular is it has a very wide distribution. So some of you may have heard of a term called hardness zones. That basically, for those not familiar with that, it really refers to the type of soil. So whether it be sandy, loamy, or even clay-like, that's how the hardness zones are really determined. So like, since we're a bit further south and we're getting more into the sand aspect, we're kind of like in the 8 to 10 in terms of hardness zone, to be particular. And they're even broken down further, such as 8A, 8B, 8C. So it really, it's just a way to help classify the layout of the land, especially with the soil. So camphorweed has been found to be in the ranges of 5 to 10. So that means it's very versatile. And as a matter of fact, camphorweed has even been found in parts of the Midwest too, and of course the East Coast, as far as North Carolina, for example. Now, with that being said, camphorweed is another type of aster that falls within the family of Asteraceae. I believe that's how it's pronounced. But as you can see, the flowers, they do produce these sort of like glossy yellow petals, and sometimes towards the center there it can have a bit of an orange, which are your anthers, of course. Now, along the actual stem or the branches, this is actually considered to be a woody plant. And along the stem, it's described to be as pubescent, which is just a fancy word for saying that has a hairy texture. Look familiar? But what's neat too about our camphorweed is its medicinal use. So it has been used as a has been used in tea before, and it's even been used for direct application. What's so neat about the camphorweed is it has particular properties in which it can help relieve pain, specifically inflammation of a particular wound that might be on our skin. So in a sense, this kind of acts as like a natural neosporin. And with that being said, essentially, medicine can be found in nature. And that's really the point I'm trying to make here, is sometimes if neosporin isn't directly on our hands, we can actually use the camphorweed to help slow down any inflammation from a wound. So yeah, that's a piece on the camphorweed. They're very useful, and typically, yeah, you'll find them along pine flatwoods as an example. So then I'm going to point out one more native wildflower. However, though, there doesn't really seem to be as much known on it as compared to that of the camphorweed. This one I was actually kind of struggling to identify. You know, when I was looking through some of my resources or references, this one was tricky, because it was telling me like it was a particular plant from Europe. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So what I had to do was narrow it down a little bit. I had to actually take a close picture of the flower itself, you know, in those little bundles. I mean, they are tiny. And I believe they're another type of aster as well. But this is something called the slender golden top. So what's neat about this flower is when you look at the leaves, it kind of has a similar texture to that of grass. And this plant is actually very rhizomatic, which is just a fancy term that describes a network of roots. So kind of think of it as like a tree, right? You know, a tree has all of these paths that their roots follow in the soil. Well, essentially, rhizomatic describes the same thing, but instead with smaller plants, like flowers. And they really call it slender, given the fact that when you look at the stem and even the leaves, they're very slender. And these also have quite of a range too. They've been found in parts of the East Coast, and they're especially prevalent even in Florida as well. And oftentimes, you'll find them in a variety of habitats, whether it be marshes, bogs, or pine flatwoods, which is where we are right now. But yeah. As I said, though, this was a tricky one to identify. Now, in terms of like actual medicinal use, I honestly don't really know. Because I was trying to look, and there doesn't really seem to be much information on it, which quite surprises me. Because you'd think, I mean, this is my opinion, of course, but I think that type of knowledge should be more accessible. Just because if we're ever in a situation where we don't have all the medical resources we need, it's always useful to know about your native plants. Yeah, here we go. You can actually find some more examples of this slender golden top. You can definitely see that they produce multiple clusters of flower heads. And they're tiny. Like, they're probably not bigger than a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch wide. But they are prevalent. But both of those plants that I was talking about, they're both essential for our pollinators, especially when it comes to our bees, butterflies, and even other insects. And I forgot to also point out, because I finally found an example, once it finally reaches past its bloom time, they will actually produce these seeds that give it the white bloom itself. This happens once the yellow flowers are past and the seeds have had a chance to be produced. So essentially what they'll do, their common method, is to use wind. That's the most efficient way of transporting, and thus it will give birth to new ones. No different than when a human has a baby. Always creates a new generation. So alright, you guys, hope you learned something of value in my video. Forgive me for the length, but a lot of these videos that I do make are unrehearsed, as it were. A lot of it is just improvisation, speaking from the heart, and from what is known in my knowledge over time. So alright, you guys, hope you all have a Sunday fun day, and once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.